Hello there, and welcome to another one of my reviews, which I haven't done for over a year now, because the last review I did was Sonic the Hedgehog, and that was before the lockdown, that was before everything turned to shit. But this time I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about Justice League, because that's the big hot thing at the moment. It's also the one thing which I managed to watch recently. To be fair, I've watched quite a few movies. I watched Wonder Woman 84, which... to summarize, it was a bit of a mess, which is a shame because I really wanted to enjoy it, but unfortunately it wasn't very good. Little Soul, which was absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved that movie. But that's about it. I haven't really watched any other, new releases for obvious reasons. But Justice League, or Zack Snyder's Justice League. Before I begin, I should probably point out what my thoughts were on the 2017 one, because yes, I did do a video on it, and yes, the video does seem, unfortunately, and lacking in hindsight, rather more positive than most other people. The reason being was because I sort of just shrugged my shoulders a bit and thought it was a fine movie. I didn't really hate it in any way. However, I did not know anything about the behind the scenes. I did not know anything about the problems behind the scenes. And as a result, I sort of gave it somewhat of a lukewarm positive review. I think it was around a 6 out of 10 I gave it, because there was a lot of problems. Like, even then I said, the CGI was crap. Some of the way the characterization was way off, like Batman was turned to a comedian in this film. The Flash was rather pointless, and Cyborg was way too serious and way too, edgy, I felt. Of course, in the run-up to Zack Snyder's cut, there was a lot of stories that came out about Joss Whedon and how he, screwed things up and how he mistreated people. And to be fair, I haven't had a positive opinion of Joss Whedon for quite some time. So, admittedly, there was a part of this sadistic side of me which was kind of glad to see him fall. But nonetheless, there was a lot of things that came out. Warner Bros. In particular really screwed Zack Snyder up. It really screwed, DC up in general. In fact, they really screwed up this DC cinematic universe in general. I've mentioned it many times. DC really needed to set out a plan. It really needed to do what Marvel did, really. Not necessarily do what Marvel did, because I don't think that's going to go well for it. I think, when they do their own thing, it actually is much better than, following Marvel's footsteps. But I do think they needed a plan. I do think they needed to have, actually done something, actually said, okay, this is how we're going to plan out. We're going to have all these films, and then we're going to have this big team-up film, something like that. But instead, what we got was Man of Steel, which was great, Batman vs. Superman, which is fucking awful, and I don't care what anyone says, I hate that film. It has a lot of good points in it, don't get me wrong. Batman vs. Superman does have a lot of good points to it. I do like a lot of it, and it's a shame because it's one of those movies which I have watched so many times, and I try to enjoy it, and I just can't enjoy it. It's just not very good. You had Suicide Squad, which was you could tell has been heavily cut and chopped into pieces and then stitched together again. You have Wonder Woman, which was great. You have Aquaman, which I must admit I actually really enjoyed. Shazam, which was all right, but Justice League was always that middle ground area, and I think DC really suffered as a result, and it's suffering even now with Warner Bros. Being dictators over everything. So Zack Snyder's Justice League, this was the Justice League that he wanted to put out. Unfortunately, tragedy did happen, and Joss Whedon was put in, and he basically removed 80% of the film. If you've seen the 2017 Justice League, then you know already sort of what the story is going to be like. And it is sort of the same, and I say sort of very, very, very heavily, because there's a lot of differences here. Even the way it opens up, it doesn't have that, weird opening, which I really... Because I rewatched the 2017 one, and it made me realize just how bad of a movie it was, and I was way too positive back in 2017 when I reviewed it initially, so I do apologize to anyone who's seen that video and thinks, oh my god, this is so bad, this video, I do apologize for that. But I digress. So 2017 movie, it began really awkwardly with this Superman flying down and wondering, what he represents, how he's a hero, etc., blah, blah, blah. And then it just has this weird, like, slow-mo shot of, like, people being abused because Superman's dead and, the world has gone to hell, etc. And then, it's so awkward. This one actually starts off with the end of Batman versus Superman, where Superman dies to Doomsday, and, my God, I really wish they pushed Batman versus Superman, like, I wish they did films before Batman vs. Superman. Like, that's one of the biggest problems I have with Batman vs. Superman, is the fact that it came way too early. It came way too early. But if it wasn't for that film, we wouldn't have this film. And because Superman's deaf, he screams and it opens up the boxes all across, the world, the ones that were hidden, the mother boxes. So there's your big difference straight away, aside from obviously the aspect ratio, which is a 4:3 as opposed to 16:9. 16:9 is the usual widescreen that you see on TV all the time. However, most things are actually filmed in 4:3, which is what a lot of TV shows used to be filmed in. And what companies do, which is very cheap to be fair, is that they tend to just crop out the top and the bottom or zoom in, if that makes sense. That's how most companies work. 4:3 is technically the aspect ratio that everything uses, which is why if you ever watch a TV show, you might notice that 4:3 TV shows tend to be higher quality, if that makes sense, than something that's in 16:9. It's something that I've noticed, and I'm sure some other people have also noticed. There's a lot more sharpness, a lot more detail. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I just like the fact that it's in 4:3, and I love seeing that. It's one of those nostalgic things, because I remember watching the Justice League cartoon when I was young, and of course that used a 4:3 aspect ratio. I should really stop talking about aspect ratios and just go on about the film, because this is a fantastic film. I'm going to say this right now. This is a fantastic film. I've actually watched it twice already. It is 4 hours long, obviously. It did take me like 2 times to watch it. What I mean by 2 times, I got to, I think, chapter 4, was it? It's right before... It's right after Steppenwolf has attacked the Atlanteans and stolen the other mother box. And that was where I got to, and then I stopped it, and then I watched the second half at another time, I should say. I sort of like watched the first half in the morning and the second half in the afternoon. Then the second time I watched it, I just sort of had it on in the background, if I'm perfectly honest. But that's not to say that's bad in any way. It's actually really, really good. I really love it. Zack Snyder is someone that I do appreciate a lot, because I really like his stuff. Watchmen, for example. I absolutely love Watchmen. I feel like he does get a little bit of a harsh rep, because I feel like Batman vs. Superman was a bit of a disaster, but at the same time, I'm almost convinced it was possibly studio interference. I think if Zack was given the chance to just be allowed to do whatever the hell he wanted and just, be free with some of the things, he could have given us some origin movies. He could have given us a Batman movie before, Batman vs. Superman. That would have been great. But no. And Batman vs. Superman, I do not like that movie, in case you're wondering. But that said, there are some things about Zack Snyder and his interpretation of DC which I'm not a fan of. There are little things which I think, okay, that's a little bit stupid, that's a little bit dumb. One of the biggest examples is obviously, instead of having Jason Todd killed, it's Dick Grayson. I do have a little bit of a problem with that. I know a lot of people don't like the fact that Batman kills. I'm not a fan of that either, but at least Zack has a reason for it. At least there is a reason for it in this. He's not killed criminals in the past, and look what's happened. He's lost his son almost, his adopted son. So, of course, he's now, he doesn't care about anything. And it obviously channels a lot from Dark Knight Returns, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, comic book that I have ever read, and certainly one of the greatest comic books ever made. So I do think there are, some things which I don't like in it, and that Robin thing really does annoy me. But there was also another thing which apparently he wanted Batman and Lois Lane to have a relationship, which I thought, oh god, no. I'm kind of glad that never happened. But despite all that, I do think Zack has a vision. how his vision comes out is a different question, you know. As much as I loved Man of Steel, there was some problems with the cinematography. Like, it had this obsession with zooming in and out, which I didn't like. But aside from that, you know, everything else is fine. You know, even Batman vs Superman, a film which I really don't like, has a lot of great moments in it. Like I said, the cinematography is actually much more improved. And, you know, Batman is awesome. I'm going to say that right now. Batman is awesome. But that was a film that suffered from heavy cuts from Warner Bros., who, let's be honest, are the villains in this whole saga. I really should be talking about this movie. I keep going on, like, these tangents. You know, this is the problem with when you're so, you know, all over the place. I guess it's the best way to describe it. I swear I've got ADHD. I really do. Obviously it's quite funny if you're watching this video, because it's just gonna be a still screen with me talking in the background, because that's how it's gonna be done for a while, I think, until I use my camera again. I digress. So Zack Snyder's Justice League, some of the major improvements is the characters. My God, the characters are so improved. Batman feels a lot more, you know, he's a lot more serious now. He's a lot more like Batman. He feels and looks like Batman. He doesn't seem like this joke character, which they turned him into, you know, where he hurts his knee and says, "Oh, I'm bleeding," or something like that. I really hated that scene so much. I hated it back then. I hate it now. The Flash, you know, I'm surprised by this. The Flash is, you know, he actually has a purpose. He isn't just there to be the awkward, geeky kid, the awkward, like, kid there. He actually has a purpose, you know, at the end. You know, I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm going to spoil a few things. At the end, the Justice League actually get killed. But the Flash, being outside the perimeter, he manages to break through time and run as fast as he can, and he prevents their deaths. That was awesome. That scene alone was awesome. And it's great because, in my opinion, all the Justice League members had something to do. Like, even Aquaman, like, even though I'd say he's probably the least active of the group, he had some stuff happening with him. You know, in Justice League, Aquaman just seemed like this grumpy guy who didn't want to be with the Atlanteans. Now, to be fair, we have seen Aquaman, the movie Aquaman, so we do know a bit more context. But here, there is some more time given to Aquaman. There's some more time given to Flash. There is some more time given to Bruce. There's some more time given to Cyborg. And Cyborg actually has a reason to be this angsty, grumpy teenager, you know. And I really, really, really love the fact that they did this with the characters. I'm so happy that they did this. It's fantastic. It is fantastic to see them actually develop these characters. And to be fair, there is 4 hours, so you can do what the hell you want. Even Steppenwolf, you know, a villain, he has a character in this. He isn't just this, "Oh, I want to end the world" villain. There is purpose to him. I mean, the poor bastard has to pay a 50,000 planet debt to Darkseid. And it's funny because in that scene you see his like little big wide puppy eyes, and it almost looks like he's about to cry. Steppenwolf is amazing in this. Like, I actually like Steppenwolf, and he doesn't look awful. Like, the Steppenwolf in the 2017 version was awful. Darkseid is in this. Darkseid, you know, he looks fantastic. Darkseid, and of course he would. He's, you know, it's just like all these improvements they did, or all the stuff that was meant to happen. It made me think, like, why the hell did they remove some of these scenes? Like, why did they think, oh, you know what, let's remove this scene, but let's have a scene where the Flash lands on Wonder Woman's breasts. Let's have a scene where Batman trying to get up and he's hurt his knee and he says, "Oh, I think I'm bleeding," or something like that. You know, let's just have all these pointless joke scenes, and let's remove the character scenes. You know, let's remove, you know, the actual purpose. Like, in the 2017 version, Steppenwolf says "for Darkseid" just randomly, and Darkseid is not mentioned. He's not seen at all. Here, he is seen quite a bit, actually, and he's more or less this shadow villain, if that makes sense. He's like this shadow villain. He basically, you know, he's in the background of things. He's not really going to be out in focus. He's not really the main villain, but he is the one sort of in behind the scenes. He is the one that is watching over everything, and he is so like sinister and so cool, and it makes me so excited to see what would happen. Unfortunately, Warner Bros. Decided that they're not going to continue the Snyderverse. They're not going to give us the Ava cut, which was the Suicide Squad missing chapters and missing moments, which is Warner Bros. Dicks. Like, I've had problems with Warner Bros. Before. Like, the fact that I had an Ed and Eddie Let's Play that had to be removed from the globe, that had to be, copyright striked multiple times because apparently I was using clips from the show, even though I wasn't using any clips from the show. Like, and lest we forget what they did to Meat Canyon. They like Warner Bros. Are probably one of the worst, if not the worst company out there. Like, I genuinely hate Warner Bros. With a passion, and unfortunately, they do have a lot of IPs under their belt, like DC, which is just tragic. Like, I'd rather DC be with a more how do I put it? More likable company. A more caring company. But alas, we can't do that. Now, is there anything that I didn't like about Zack Snyder's Justice League? There are a few little things, and I admit these are little things. So there are some moments where it slow-mos, and it's like this awkward, like, stillness. Because at one point, the Flash saves, and I forgot her goddamn name, and I'm so sorry for forgetting her name, his future girlfriend. He saves her, and it's just this awkwardly slow motion moment. Like, I can understand, like, this is him moving really fast, and he's saving this girl, from a car wreckage, and, obviously, this is what he sees in comparison to what, everyone else would just see a Flash, obviously. But it just lingers way too long, in my opinion. It could have easily been cut down like a few more seconds, and it would have been fine. But no, they just linger on it, and it's just. And they have this awkward like music being played on in the background when he does so. I think some people have pointed out that the music choices can be a little bit off-putting. There are moments where. There's moments where, they'll be walking down some steps and there's rock music playing in the background. Don't get me wrong, great music, but, it's not the most appropriate thing to have. Like, holy shit, they're walking down some stairs. Holy shit, they're walking over there. It's like, it's not even like a battle sequence. It's just them walking. There are some, like, awkward little moments like that. There's, those things did feel a little bit distracting. I will say this as well. I don't think many people have pointed this out, but I certainly had a little bit of a problem with this. Gore effects. The gore effects in this aren't very good. If I'm perfectly honest, it's one of those... If I'm perfectly honest, gore effects in general in films have not been very good since, like, the early 90s. I think the early 90s, well, mid-90s maybe, was probably the last time you ever saw a film that had decent gore effects, because... Here, the gore effects is like this big, thick splodginess, and it's either black blood, which, obviously, Darkseid gets an axe shoved right into his shoulder blade, and it's just this big splodge, and it's so awkwardly unrealistic. It's so awkward to look at. Like, it's weird because Darkseid looks so good in CGI, and then you have that, and it's like, you could have done better with that. The gore effects in this just felt a little bit too thick, too splodgy. It should have been a little bit more, I guess, liquefied, less, out there. Because this is a problem with gore in general. In a lot of these modern movies, they think like they think a person getting like a paper cut is the equivalent of 10 gallons of blood being just poured out. And it's like, you sometimes less is more. That's my personal opinion. Sometimes less is more, Is there anything else I really had a problem with? Like, I only had real nitpicks, because I will say this right now, this is the best DC EU movie. I think that's how they call it, their cinematic universe. out there, cinematic universe, this is the best one by a long shot. Nothing will ever top this, I don't think, unless they actually do put some effort into some of the other films, but I don't think they will. But yeah, I can't really think of any other like minor criticisms I had. Like, maybe there were some odd, moments here and there, but like Martian Manhunter sort of gets wasted in this. He appears like briefly. He disguises himself as Clark Kent's mum, and he just disappears for the rest of the film. And then he appears right at the end and says, "Hey, I want to join your Justice League." And yeah, I do like the fact that Bruce is just so like, he's so used to seeing just weird shit happen that he's not even fazed by this green alien man standing in front of him, or flying or floating in front of him, I should say. It is genuinely funny. Speaking of humor, I was surprised that quite a few of the gags from the other Justice League were, or actually technically from this Justice League, were kept in. I thought there were some jokes which I thought were obviously added in by Joss Whedon, but no, there's some which I was surprised by that were actually in the original cut. Like, for example, when Commissioner Gordon is up on the rooftop and, you have the Flash, you have Cyborg, you have Batman, you have Wonder Woman all stood with Commissioner Gordon. He's just detailing, what's just happened. And they all rush off as he turns his back, and he turns around and only the Flash is there, and he says, "Oh, they've just left." And, that's rude. I thought that was a Joss Whedon moment, but apparently not. And, I won't lie, it's actually quite a decent joke. If, in fact, come to think about it, all the jokes in this film were decent and actually likable jokes. Oh, that's right. That's another thing which I didn't like about this film. Cyborg's father's death. I'm going to say this right now. I get the attempt to try and make it emotional, try to make it, the shocking moment. And it does a good job. It gives Cyborg, motivation, I guess. Now his entire family's dead. But at the same time, the way Cyborg's dad dies is what I have a problem with, because he uses a laser to try and destroy one of the mother boxes so Steppenwolf can't get it, but it doesn't work. So in other words, his death was absolutely pointless. I should be laughing because it's meant to be an emotional scene, but it makes his death absolutely pointless. Maybe that was the point, but I don't know. I feel like if they're going to try and make it more emotional, it should have had like a bit more of a bit more purpose to it. But instead, it just felt like a pointless action that he took. It resulted in his death, which, let's be honest, now was pointless. It could have been prevented. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So yeah, Justice League. It's not the same as the 2017 version, although the story is more or less following the same lines. So if you've seen the 2017 version, you'll know exactly sort of what's going to happen, but it is so radically different that you're not going to, it's going to be absolutely, it is so radically different that, it works in its own right, I guess you could say. I was trying to figure out what to say, because the moment, it's basically an expansion. It's more of an expansion. That's a good way of putting it. It expands on the characters, it expands on the story, and it gives purpose to everything. It's not just, oh, let's just have this scene. Oh, let's just rush over here. Let's rush over here. Let's just, I feel like I can understand why they wanted to cut it down to 2 hours for cinematic releases, but at the same time, I think to myself, did you really need to do that? I mean, did you really, really need to do that? Because they'd cut out moments and replace them with pointless moments. Like the Russian family, they're not in this. Like I actually thought, okay, they might appear at some point, but no, they're not in this. In fact, they make it very clear that it's in Chernobyl, which, let's be honest, it doesn't have anyone there, except for maybe a few wolves and some birds, but they're most likely radioactive. And, obviously there wouldn't be people there. In fact, that's just something that I noticed. I just thought, in this film, something that I thought was quite funny is the fact that is the fact that there's actually less people getting killed in this film than in the Joss Whedon version. And this is a film which has an apocalypse, universe shown at one point. And what I mean by that is, in Joss Whedon's version, a woman like begs for her life and says, "Oh, I got kids," and then Steppenwolf just snaps her neck and throws her down. And he says, "Why do they always say that?" Or something like that. And not only that, you have people in Chernobyl, which doesn't make any sense. Considering the fact that people shouldn't be living there. They have that, and there's bound to be quite a few deaths from the parademons, let's be honest now. But here, there's actually very minimal death in this film. The deaths are mainly major characters or main characters. They're not main characters. They're major or named characters. It's interesting in a way. So I did sort of just mention the apocalypse timeline in which Darkseid comes to Earth and destroys everything, and there's only a few straggling survivors. And this is caused because Superman loses Lois. And there's this moment, and this moment is fantastic. I've said before how much I hated Jared Leto's Joker, how much I hated his design, the way he acted and looked. Suicide Squad really ruined the Joker, but Jared Leto redeemed himself here. He has redeemed himself massively. Like, holy shit, this moment, it's a short moment. Like, the Joker doesn't have many lines. He just has, like, a very few lines, and it's this short moment, and I thought, holy crap, this is the Joker. This is the Joker. This is a brilliant Joker. And he also rubbed out some of his tattoos, I noticed, which was fantastic. I am more of a sucker when it comes to the long-haired Joker look. I prefer that over the short-haired Joker look. Personal preference. But, there's this moment where he's talking to Batman, and this interaction with Batman and Joker is just, it's perfect. It is perfect. It's this perfect example of, well, you won't kill me because of some misguided view of justice, and I won't kill you because you're too much fun, and even though Batman does say, I will fucking kill you, like, he legitimately says, I will fucking kill you, like, the tension between the two is sort of brought down to this level-headed area where, no matter what, these two are just always going to be together no matter what. And the Joker knows this, and he even says, you won't kill me because I'm your best friend. And it's one of these creepy but brilliant moments, and I loved it, even though it was short. And once Superman, the evil Superman, comes down and is about to kill them all, the Joker is just laughing his head off. He doesn't take it seriously at all. I really loved this short moment at the apocalypse moment. It was fantastic. It really was. I really loved it. But obviously it's just a dream sequence, or maybe it's a future prediction, but the way Warner Bros. Going to take it is probably not going to happen, unfortunately. Which is a shame, because this film made me want more. Like, I feel like if Warner Bros. Just let Zack do what he wanted from beginning till end, it would have been fine. I think people wouldn't have had a problem. Like, don't get me wrong, I think people had a problem with Man of Steel, which sort of split people up a bit. And I really liked Man of Steel. I thought it was decent. I just didn't like the camera work they used in it, the zooming in and out constantly. But I liked it. Batman vs Superman felt like a rushed movie. It felt and looked like a rush movie. Like, why would you push the death of Superman like this close in? They should have had like films before it, and instead they were too busy trying to be like Avengers. They were too busy trying to be like the MCU. But as we've seen with not only this film but also Joker, and to some extent even Harley Quinn, when they don't try to be like the MCU, they succeed. They really do succeed. I feel like they should just be their own thing. They don't need to just try to be MCU 2.0. Let the MCU be the MCU, and let DC be DC. I really hope this Twitter event, this hashtag event, the Restore the Snyderverse, is a success, just like, the Snyder Cut. But yeah, I really hope it does, because I want to see more from this. This made me want more, because after Wonder Woman 84, which, I watched back in, I think, December, I was so disappointed by that film, because it was so bad. Like, it just... it was all over the place. It was so confused, and it just felt like it existed. Shazam I liked, but it felt like an MCU film more than anything. And I just wish we could have had much more. I wish we could have more. I wish we could have more of this Zack Snyder version of the DC Universe. Even if there are going to be things which I will disagree with. I've already mentioned my opinion on the Robin, and the fact that he wanted to have Batman and Lois Lane have a relationship, which I really disagree with. But with the exception of those small little things, I would love to see his version. After all, it's just an interpretation. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen, which is a real shame. But hey, who knows? Maybe Restore the Snyderverse will happen, and I hope it does. I really, really hope it does. That's just basically my brief thoughts. Even if I did talk more about behind the scenes stuff than I did the actual movie, it is a fantastic movie. Like, I really recommend people download it, watch it, whatever. However you can watch it, just watch it. It's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. I cannot stress it enough. It is brilliant. It is the best DCEU movie. Not the best DC movie, and nor is it the best superhero movie of all time. However, it is definitely up there in the top 10, in my opinion. Like I said, it's not the best DC movie of all time. Dark Knight Trilogy and Joker. And personal opinion, Batman and Batman Returns. But it is up there. It is up there. And it is certainly up there in my personal top 10 favourite superhero films of all time. So I really like it. I really liked it. And I think you will enjoy it too. If you didn't like the 2017 version, or you're just hoping for something that can fill in the plot holes, that can give us some more stuff, and actually, give us actual characters and story and motivations, etc. It's fantastic.